Hey, what's up, everybody? You know what time it is. Your boy Jeffrey L. Boney for another hot edition of Real Talk Junkies. Man, so glad that you joined us on today. Make sure you share the link with your friends, with your foes, with everybody in your family. I mean, anybody who needs to hear this topic. We have an interesting show topic on today that everybody, and I do mean everybody, needs to check out. Today, we are talking about what's off limits in our community these days. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, we used to have a code in the streets, man. I'm talking about women, elders, our seniors, our black women, our kids. They were always off limits. But now, all of a sudden, it seems like the game has changed. I know that people have probably seen the video circulating, the viral video of the young African, I mean, not young African American woman, the older African American woman who was about to go into her house. And as she was about to go into her house, you see this young African American male, roll up on her, or excuse me, the car rolls up on her, which is believed to be a Hyundai Elantra. And she rolls up on, I mean, they roll up on her. He hops out of the car, rolls up on her, man, with a gun, armed. And next thing she's throwing her purse at him. He's demanding money. He's checking her pockets. You know what I'm saying, looking for money. And if you really, really listen close, you'll hear him say a name of a person. Sounds like a female, Tanika or whatever he said, has the money, says you got the money, say you got the money. So it's almost as if she was set up and somebody told them that this lady had money. And it's my understanding, according to reports, that this victim had just cashed her check for her income taxes and had about maybe $3,900 in her pocket. Somebody had to have informed them that took place, but nonetheless, uh, she said, "I don't got no money. I don't have no money." He said, "Yes, Tanika or whoever said you got the money," and then he started checking her pockets. After she threw the purse at him. And so, I mean, it was a real traumatic experience. Just watching it was traumatic. And then, after it went viral, you see local rap artists as well as philanthropist Trey the Truth shared the video on his Instagram page on Monday. And then he turned around and posted right after that a video of his own where he talked about, how things used to be in the streets, the street code, and that, there were certain individuals that were off limits, kids, elders, black women. And, to see that young man do that to one of our black queens in the community is disturbing. And sadly, it seemed like that type of activity has increased over and over and over again over the last several years. And so, here to talk about today the information about, man, off limits, our women, our kids, our elders, and what happened to the code of the streets regarding our most vulnerable is none other than Minister Abdul Haleem Muhammad, who has always been active in our community, talking about not only reactionary issues like this, but also trying to be proactive in how we deal with some of the things that make our community or seek to make our community better, as well as Ms. Rozzy Shorter, who is a community involved citizen as well as an activist. So if I could have you all come up, Rozzy Shorter, Dr. Abdul Haleem Muhammad. Welcome to Real Talk Junkies, everybody.
Hello.
All right, so let's talk about it, y'all. I mean, you heard, I'm sure you've seen the viral video. Very, very disturbing. I applaud Trey the Truth for talking about how things used to be in our communities and the code that we have always, at least in the past, had. But it seems like the game has changed. So I'll start with you, Dr. Muhammad. What were your initial thoughts upon seeing that video?
Well, my initial thoughts were the same as expressed by Brother Trey the Truth, is that there was a street code at one time. But that street code has been changed, not on our own, because we had a 1994 crime bill that took all the OGs off the street. Now, as a student minister, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I have toured all of the federal prisons from the low security, meaning Club Fed, all the way up to maximum security, say Lewisburg. Only level I never went on was the Supermax. Didn't go on there. And all the OGs were locked up. So what did you leave? In a military street order, you taken all the leadership, the command and control, because there was a code in the street that if you did work, you had to either be authorized by the OG or you had to answer to the OG. And if you did it on your own, you'd have to answer to the OG. But once you took the OGs off, we left a generation of our youngsters out here who are just wilding. And lastly, I'm not going to blame them, though we are all responsible for the choices that we make. However, if you look at from the highest levels of government, when you look at the previous administration, you looked at the January 6th insurrection, you looked at the lawlessness that is the wickedness in high places. And then you wonder why street crime is the way it is. You're going to condemn them, but you won't condemn those who are behind the insurrection, who tried to steal a whole democracy, who have hijacked a whole country, a whole world. And then we get angry talking about drive-by shootings when we got aircraft carriers that do fly-by shootings. So I'll leave it at that.
well, I mean, bringing it back home though, Rozzy, you live in the neighborhood, and you and your mother, how old is your mom?
She's 73.
73. And your mom was former Civic Club president and very, very active in the community. And, you're in the neighborhood. What are your thoughts? I mean, seeing this video that your mom could be going into her house and something like this happening. I mean, how does that make you feel? And even yourself as a Black woman.
It alarmed me. Certainly it alarmed me. But unlike most people, I am armed. And my mother is armed. I have taught her how to handle her firearm. We have many guns in my home. As you know, we just built a new home, and so we're not actively living there yet, but we have been burglarized. And so we've been burglarized by people that live in our community, in our neighborhood. And it's really saddened to see that happen, especially when you work hard for things and then people just feel like they have the right to just take it from you, and you live in that community, and these are people that you know. And so back in the day, as you said, there was a code that said, hey, you don't mess with old people, you don't go messing with women and children. And so now it's like you have to constantly watch and turn your back. You're constantly watching it. So what I would say is that is important is that we have situational awareness. And that's what I teach my mother all the time. Like, I never get out of my car without having my firearm in my hand, not in my backpack, not in my purse. It's literally in my hand. So if you're coming towards me, you're already got. My gun is not on safety. It's ready to get you. So like, real talk. Yeah, you come towards me and my mother, you going down. No question about it.
Well, I mean, but
why are you looking at me serious?
I mean, but to even have to live like that.
It's sad, but that's the time in the era that we live in. And it's not, and here's the deal. It's not just with older people. It's with younger people too. It's with younger kids. I have cameras all around my property. I had young kids underneath my house and on like all around my house. And when I got there, they was like, oh, I said, hey, why are you at my house? Why are you in my property? And it was like, no, you're not. I took my phone. I said, look, this is not you. This is how people lose their lives every day. And you are an African-American Black boy, and I don't want to have to take your life because you're violating me and my mother. Please stay away. And one guy was like, shut up, let's go. Ma'am, I'm sorry. And the other guy was just looking at me. And I was like, yes, you on my property. You see that sign says no trespassing? That means do not enter onto private property. You subject yourself to death when you do that.
Wow. So Doctor, I mean, you heard what she just said. I mean, what are your immediate thoughts on that? I mean, because there are these are violations of people's livelihood, safety, and even a fear of maybe if I don't act, then they may take my life. Or what's of value to me.
I'm always taught by my teacher to go to the root of things. And for me, my doctorate is in urban planning, so I'm always looking at the past to get a snapshot of the present to project into the future. So I'm thinking in 20, 30, 40, 50-year clips. That's how I think. So I go back to the Stop the Killing tour, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the men's only meetings that led to the Million Man March. And we took a pledge on that mall. Now, some of these persons who are perpetrating these crimes weren't even born. So we're on the cusp or the end of the baby boom generation. We are the beneficiaries of the affirmative action of the civil rights movement. We just observed the anniversary of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King and the consequential Kerner Commission report. We saw all of these things, and so now we've given birth to a generation that is the Joshua generation. They are fearless. There's no scared straight with them. You have to talk straight, and as Sister Rozzy is pointing out, they have to understand that strength equals strength. For if they sense any weakness in you, they'll come for you. But also, the other thing is that we find we're unarmed, and that's our teaching. And you see us walk through the valley of the shadow of death. You know that the Muslims, when we roll with a newspaper, love in our heart, sometimes a bean pie, but we're willing to defend ourselves if attacked. However, when you go in with the kind of love, I don't care whether they're the hardest gangster in the street, they know that these brothers are serious and we love them. So that is our approach.
But there's so many stories, and I saw something recently in Chicago where someone, he's not a member of the Nation of Islam, but he was a community activist, had that love, that care for the streets, gave back and did all these things, reached out to the youth, but he was shot and killed and murdered for just trying to improve his neighborhood. And so I guess my point is, you know, you a 73-year-old woman and having to be taught, a black woman, having to be taught how to defend yourself by using a gun and take somebody's potentially life that may look like you. And it's just seemingly a bigger issue here. And I know you talk about, you know, root causes and everything, but how do we address this? I mean, because this is it seems like it's spiraling out of control.
Well, you can't solve violent crime. This is what I've been appealing to the mayor, the police chiefs. I mean, you know, I've been the student minister here for 35 years, and I try to tell everyone that you cannot solve this problem until and unless we rebuild family and community life. Mm-hmm. See, this is what Rozzy and her mother represent: community life, that civic club, that little league team, that football team, the YMCA, the YWCA, the Boy Scouts coming out of the church, the girl. These things we had community life. But what happened, beloved, is what we're arguing about right now, say right here in Third Ward, is just what we call gentrification. What happened is that once we were freed from segregation, we fled to the lands in many cases, and those who couldn't leave or didn't want to leave stayed. But many of our black middle class and upper middle class and professionals left. Now, the vacuum is being filled by dinks, double income, no kids. Now they're moving in and they're coming and they're building their condominiums, and we have this kind of clash of cultures going on. But what you see with the turkey leg hut, what you see with Marcus Davis and the reggae hut and the other things that are going on up and down Alameda and Emancipation is a regentrification. Now we're seeing our black young professionals coming in, our young people coming in, and they're doing business and entrepreneurship. The point I'm making to us, beloved, is that our community broke down. We live in proximity to one another. But in many cases, particularly in the suburbs, Brother Jeff, we live in bedroom communities. And we go to work in the city, we drive back. All I want to do is maybe I'll go in the park, maybe I'll go to my son's soccer game or baseball game, and then I'm going to bed. I ain't trying to hear all the politics and whatnot that's going on here, because I get up the next day, shave, shower, get dressed, jump in my car, drive another hour inside the city and do this back and forth. And I really ain't about. So we've lost a sense of community, and then family. When you go back to the Monahan report, man, I mean, you go back and he talked about the black male. So we've had a target on our back all this whole time. And where there is no strong relationship, no strong marriage, there's no strong family. Where there's no strong family, there's no strong community. And where there's no strong communities, there's no strong city, nation, world. And so the bottom line is that we have to rebuild our family and our community life and have respect for life. So I'll close the point by saying that Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us that self-improvement is the basis for community development. We have to have the ability, or teach the ability, for a person to examine themselves, analyze themselves, and then correct themselves. So a lot of what's going on, brother, is that people's gullibility has become their liability. And right now we got to all wake up and be aware. As she's talking about situational awareness, in the Nation of Islam, we have a military code that we borrow from the military. It says, take charge of this post and all temporal property in view. And then it says, walk your post in a perfect manner, keeping always on the alert.
So listen, okay, so let's be real. Every household doesn't have the nuclear family. They don't have a husband wife situation. This lady was coming home from work at 7:30 in the morning, and she was taking care of her. She's taking care of her son, who is in a wheelchair. He's wheelchair bound, and she was using that money that she had just allegedly cashed the check for her income taxes because she's taking care of him. And so now you got someone that has taken something that was to improve her family, and her household. And, she doesn't have a husband in the house to do that or help her with it. And I don't know you all's, family situation, but it really saddens me that our Black females have to, and your mom is 73.
Correct.
And you're having to teach her how to shoot center mass and to protect herself at all costs, and that you have to think like that, think like a criminal in essence.
Right.
And so, Rozzy, you heard, what the minister had to say. So,
well, for me particularly, all that's good, fine, but where we are today, if you come towards me and you're trying to harm me or my family, you laying down. It's the bottom line. It's nothing else about that, because if you oppose imminent death, a danger towards me, and it's a threat, then I am going to retaliate to protect myself and to protect my family. It's no other way around that. That's why, I have my license to carry my gun. I worked in a prison. I was a sergeant. I was over the perimeter security team. So I know I'm very familiar with guns. And so actually we have about 12 guns in my household, and everybody that lives in my house knows how to use a weapon. So, well, let me just say a firearm. It's only a weapon once you use it. But yeah, you have to be careful with what you say. So everyone in my house is trained, from my niece to my nephew. My nephew, I had to teach him, and he was afraid. And he plays video games all the time. And I said, that mindset, that when you're playing that game, I need you to have that same mindset when someone is coming to attack our family.
But why? Come on now, listen to what you're saying. And I'm not saying you're wrong, but listen to what you're saying. This is what we've come to in this country, where we're having to teach how to kill, teach how to murder, teach how to murder our own. And I understand what you're saying. You have to do that to protect yourself, but it never was like that back in the day. I know growing up, for me, I grew up South Park and Third Ward, and so I was not the best person in the world, but I knew even then. I had a lady who was my next door neighbor, Miss Leola. And we couldn't really stand Miss Leola for this purpose and this purpose alone. She was a snitch, but she was protecting her neighborhood. We knew when we saw those blinds moving that she was checking out everything going on her street. And when we would get home, or everybody would, their mama, their grandmother, whatever, would know what you had done. But we never thought in our minds, let's take her out because she's telling on everybody. We just had to figure out a better way to make sure she didn't see what we were doing, right? But my point is, we never in our minds said, we're gonna harm her, we're gonna attack her, or we're gonna take something from her. And the same with our elders, whether they were male or female, and the kids in our neighborhood. We actually made sure that they was taken care of and had their needs. We buy them shoes or popsicles off the popsicle truck because we wanted to gain their loyalty, but at the same time we just looked at them as off limits. And so Dr. Muhammad, I just feel like, man, we keep talking about these types of things, but they keep getting worse.
Well, again, I want to say that everybody, Minister Farrakhan has said to me, he said, brother, we're either victims or beneficiaries of the decisions that we make. So as individuals, we're going to have to be responsible for what we do, especially when we know the truth. But he also coined a saying that he who gives you The diameter of your knowledge prescribes for you the circumference of your activities. Why do we act like that in this day and time? We act as if somehow, some way, we have some independent thought, some independent culture that is. We're here speaking English. We're not here speaking Swahili or Zulu or Xhosa. You know, we're here talking English. We're here driving on this side of the road. We have certain folkways, mores, norms, and values and attitudes we learned in our sojourn here in America. So we're looking at the people who not only stole the country from the indigenous people, they stole us and made us work the country, and then look around. Hey, I didn't do nothing. You know, y'all ain't getting no reparations or nothing. Let's not talk about that. Let's move on. Let's move on from that. And so here we are, getting our folkways, norms, and values and attitudes through media, through these things, and
video games.
And so we talk about gangster rap, but as my friend Willie D says, you know, what about gangster actors? You know, what about, you know, Die Hard, the Die Hard man? He's retired now because
Bruce Willis.
Yeah. What about Die Hard? What about Arnold Schwarzenegger? What about these gangster actors? And tell me any superhero movie you know, Marvel or DC, Superman, Batman, that's DC, Marvel, Spider-Man, Hulk, and all the Avengers and all that, they solve their problem peacefully without violence.
So it's about messaging.
There it is.
Like,
so we're being programmed, and then you look at all of the institutions that are the stewards of life that we benefited from, no matter how we were. We're a generation, in a sense, got second chances. Let me tell you something, brother. We got zero tolerance in schools, and once these children get a jacket on them, a lot of times, Rozzy knows that when she was in perimeter guard in the prison, she know that cat right there had an 8th grade or maybe a 3rd grade reading level. He came from many cases a broken family, had drug, alcohol problems, or was a victim of abuse as a child. There's a profile of them. When I was the spiritual advisor to Shaka Sankofa, Gary Graham, and also Odell Barnes, who were both executed in the year 2000, they told me their life stories, man. And they almost line up. So you can tell now, the criminologists at Sam Houston University know that in 3rd grade, by 3rd grade reading levels, they know how many prison cells to build. These people think, as I'm talking about, hardwired for long-term big picture. So they already know that the schools are failing us. They know that the disparity in healthcare. They know that there's a disparity in the justice system. And they also know, based upon sociology, the breakdown of our family and where we are. Why did Hillary Clinton use the language of super predator, which turned off a lot of black people, so we didn't vote for her, so we got Donald Trump? Why? What happened in the crack epidemic that caused us to be so fearful like we are right now, that we actually, in some cases, the Congressional Black Caucus supported the crime bill that Joe Biden pushed and Clinton signed? Why? Because we right now are being ruled by fear and the inability to engage. So we're going to do all that we can, and we want Rozzy to be safe and not have to hurt anybody or anybody to hurt her or you or me. But some of us have to step up, Brother Jeff, and go to and say what Trey is saying to them. There's a street code, man. There's a code of behavior that you can't scare them straight. Trust me. You cannot scare them straight, but you have to help them understand that what you're doing is bad for business.
So you had these now 3 young African American men who killed the officer,
the deputy,
sheriff deputy, and now they're going to, their lives are forever changed. Not only that the sheriff deputy and the sheriff deputy's family, but I go back to just thinking about Joshua Woods, who he and his friend had left Greens Point Mall buying Jordans that day. And I know in Forward Times we talked about this story where they followed him home and shot him in the head and
took a pair of sneakers.
To take a pair of sneakers. And it's just
remember starter jackets?
Starter jackets back in the day. When I was at Ryan Middle School, I reluctantly would wear my starter jacket to school because they was jacking you for your starter jackets. You know what I'm saying? Whether it was a Raider jacket or whatever it was, but it's so many, I guess, situations. You can go back and look over the past several decades where you just think about how we have placed certain things over life. And now the respect level is different. I remember seeing a video of and this happened here in Houston on the Metro bus, where this older African American woman was asked, or the young man was asked, can she sit down? And he was like, basically, hell no. I'm sitting here. This is my seat. And it's like back in the day, you would be like, sure, get up.
Or somebody would have
or somebody would say,
get up.
Yeah, get up, man. Let that lady
Right.
sit down. You know what I'm saying? But it's like now, it's totally different, man.
Well, morals and those things are not taught in the church, the mosque, or the school. They're taught in the home.
Mm.
That's my point. They're reinforced in the mosque, the church, and the school, and the community, but they're supposed to be taught at home. So we have, again, when you have disrespect, particularly for a woman, see, we got a law in our mosque that a nation could rise no higher than its woman. That's something we teach. That's part of our theology. A nation could rise no higher than its woman. The woman must be honored, respected, and protected. Where there are no decent women, there are no decent men, for the woman is the mother of civilization. That is our theology.
Mm-hmm.
Our theology says that the woman is the second self of God. Mm-hmm. That after God created himself out of the triple darkness of space, the second thing he did was create woman, not sun, not moon, not stars, but woman, because he needed someone that could comfort him and to bring human beings into existence. That's our theology. So to the extent that we don't see the value of the woman, she's the key to the kingdom of God. And to the extent that we do not see her value, we will never really completely understand God, and nor will we ever understand how we can fix this problem. She's the first teacher. She's the first nurse. Before we know anything about Jesus, Mohammed, Marx, Frederick Engels, Adam Smith, Donald Trump, or Joe Biden, the first thing that child knows is mama. She is God's agent. So to the extent that we don't concentrate on our sisters, and though the sister got robbed and she was taking care of a paralyzed son, there was no immaculate conception, I guarantee you. There was a father at one point. Some man made that baby. And so she's a grandmother. So at some point in time, as men, we have to resolve that the woman must be honest, protected, and she must be respected, and we must lift her up, and we must become those who make our own community safe and decent places to live.
Have you talked to your mom about what's been going on in the community, and how does she feel about it?
Well, she's afraid and stuff. She actually is always watching what's happening around her, but sometimes she's distracted, and when she's distracted, I fuss at her because I say you have to pay attention to what's happening, because people will get you because you're vulnerable. She's elderly. She moves slow at times. She's distracted by things. She's grabbing stuff and she's not paying attention to what's going on around her. And I said, you are the perfect prey. Like, you're the person that someone would come and get. And especially when people see that you have things new, or if they know that you have something, like that lady, they were aware that she had money. So they were seeking to take it from her. And so it's even like with things, and like with our new home, like I have to be really careful about how I get rid of boxes at my home. Like I was getting ready to get rid of this television box the other day, and my nephew said, "Oh, Amy, you can't do that." I said, "Why?" I said, "It's too big. It's taking up the garage." He said, "No, you have to do that at nighttime. You have to sneak that out of the house." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Like literally, I have to sneak the box out of the garage that I paid for. Really? Why do you do that? And then I thought, you're right, because somebody could try to burglarize my home just because they see this television and they want it. And I said, it doesn't make sense. And so I tell my mother stuff like, watch what you're doing. Even when it comes down to like designer purses and things like that, and where she goes, I said, you can't take a $4,000 purse to the dollar store. That doesn't make sense. Like, watch what you're doing. You can't go into Jimmy Chan or go to, no, seriously, you have to watch what you're doing. You're a target. People want that kind of stuff. And she thinks that I don't want her to have these things, like, oh, you just don't want me to wear. No, I'm concerned about your safety. You don't pay attention. You like it, but you're not thinking like safety wise.
They like it too.
They like it too. And you look weak enough for them to take it from you, and they'll take it.
Yeah.
Right.
No question.
That's what happens in the criminal justice system. A lot of people never step and step. They took your stuff. They have no problem with taking it. If they think you're the weaker person, they're gonna take it from you.
Mhm.
And then sometimes people don't even care whether you look like you're the weaker person or not. If they want it, they're fixated on what they want. And they gonna get what they want to get, just like they did to that lady. They were aware that there was money and they wanted it and they didn't care that they rolled up on her as fast as they did. Like they didn't just like they were like I mean like they were methodically fast. They weren't like meticulous. They were like, ooh, no, well, let's get them. No, they just like boom, ran up on her. That's why she was like, whoa, let me get rid of it. You can have it, go. And all she wanted them to do is just take
Leave.
whatever you want. Don't hurt me. Just take what you want. But I mean, for them to have the unmitigated gall to start touching her on her person, and then makes me want to
Or maybe they are around, they just
they
scared.
just don't want, everybody's afraid. But I would say that everybody should become aware and familiar with firearms to protect their homes.
Mhm.
If somebody's going to come into your house, I'm not saying to protect your home and your life. I'm not just saying, certainly, let me say this. If you come in and you steal something from me, I'm not going to take your life because that's something that I can replace. But if you're coming and you pose an imminent danger and threat to me and my family, like if you jump over my fence, like that fence is there to save your life. It's not to protect me. It's really to save your life. Because if you come inside, then you have a problem, right?
Yeah.
And it's gonna cost me $10,000 just to tell a judge my story. And I just don't want to waste my money like that.
Mm.
I understand what you're saying, and I don't want anybody to think we're pacifists. We're not that. We're just taught never to be the aggressor. But if you're attacked, you fight with those who fight with you. And we're notorious for taking people's weapons from them and using them on them.
That's why I say you have to be trained. You have to go and know what you're doing
Yes.
with a firearm. Don't just have it. Don't just, what's the purpose of having a firearm and it's always on safety and it's in a safe somewhere? That defeats the purpose.
I understand what you're talking about, and I'm not one of these people who's like what they call gun grabbers. I'm not a gun grabber, man. If that's what floats your boat, then that's what floats your boat. What I'm saying is this: when it comes to conflict resolution, I'm not even talking about people jacking and robbing. I'm talking about we got a conflict, you and I. Me and Jeff have a conflict back in the day, South Park, third ward. I grew up in Washington Heights and Harlem and South Bronx. If we got a conflict, we settle them with these.
Oh, absolutely. People are afraid to fight now. They don't even know how to fight.
So now it's I'm gonna shoot you. I'm gonna shoot you.
Or stab you.
You know, or stab you.
That's
but
the cowardly
you know,
way.
yeah, but that's what we've come to. Again, we have to recognize, as you say, situational awareness. We have to be aware of the time that we're living in and what are the things that are influencing us. So we talk about your mom's purse or your nice clothes and all that. But when I traveled to China and I went to Guangzhou, I got to see the manufacturing district where all this stuff come from, where you find out that a pair of Nike shoes only cost $12 to make. So I'm gonna kill Jordan. I'm gonna kill him over some Jordans, man. They 200, man. They the newest, man. It was $200. So who's getting macked? Who's getting pimped? So we've got this mindset that things like your television and other things are more valuable. My rims, my slab car, are more valuable than a human life.
Mhm.
That's why she threw the purse, man. Take it.
Mhm.
First,
Exactly.
and he's touching her because he knew she had some money. Because Tanisha, I want to know who Tanisha is.
So
Somebody
you
set
it
her
was
up.
Tanisha.
I
Tanisha,
posted
somebody
on
set
my
her up.
Instagram.
You heard it
Set her
too.
up.
You heard it
Yeah,
too,
Right.
right?
who is Tanisha?
Tanisha.
Yeah.
Because this is
Let's go find her.
Yeah, we need to know who she is.
because the truth of the matter is that when I first moved here in 1980, I worked in banking and finance. So I was a bank teller. Matter of fact, in the Southwest area where the Jewish community is, and some of these Holocaust survivors will come in with the money they get, and they will come in. Usually their son was with them, and they come in. How you doing, Miss Rosenberg, Miss So and So Steen, this, that, and the other. But one time, one woman came.
So Steen, that's funny.
She came in, and she started trying to withdraw a large amount of money. But her son wasn't with her. I said, "What's going on? You know, how you doing?" I always had the gift of gab. So what's going on? You know, I got some business I'm taking care of. I said, "Well, where's your son? You know, he's usually with you. He's got this money here." So I told the branch manager. Turns out, man, she was being set up for a pigeon drop.
Oh.
You know, give me 5,000, I'm gonna give you 20. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
I just
wow.
need 5,000 right now. She was gonna withdraw that money
Mhm.
and give it to somebody, and then she'd come back. Oh my God, they stole my money. What?
Mhm.
What? I didn't get it. So I'm very aware of that kind of mindset. You understand? So what we got to do, beloved, is that we have to really set for ourselves from top to bottom, from the Congressional Black Caucus to the state leaders to our local leaders. We have to set an unapologetically Black agenda, and part of it has to be a code of ethics, morals. We can't be like the other people. We never get away with it.
No.
Never. We can't rob and steal and jack and white collar criminal. We ain't blue collar criminals, right? Man. We always get busted, man.
Yeah.
They always come down.
Yeah, exactly.
You understand? Because after COINTELPRO, when they tried to stop us in the civil rights and Black Power movement, all they did was follow us as we elected Black people into office. Look at all of those things that they set up. So we have to now,
Marion Barry.
yeah. Oh, they set us up constantly, going after us, bugging us, and trapping us, and doing the things that they did. So now, the young buck, because they will not listen, they will not heed, and because of the fear, and because of what has happened to our elders and our women and even our children, Brother Jeff, on the CBS evening news, they showed this task force in Buffalo, led by the FBI. But it was the SWAT team there in Buffalo, local police and FBI put together this task force. Brother, they were in military-style vehicles. They were one step away from the National Guard. And if this continues the way it's continuing, our mothers, our own grandmothers are going to call for the death of our own Black youth because of this kind of terror. We're afraid of our own. And last point I make is I served on the MacArthur Grant Safety and Justice Committee here, which was trying to deal with the disparity in the Harris County Jail. And we make up 18% of Harris County, but we were like 48 to 52% of the Harris County Jail. Me and Black people were. Mm-hmm. So there's 8,000 brothers down there, 8,000 men down there, and maybe half of them is brothers, is Black, and then another 20, 30% is Hispanic. But we're the majority down there. So what happens? I'm not talking about the violent criminals. What happens when this brother comes out? He's functionally illiterate. He has a little drug problem. He has anger management problems. He has no social network, no backup, no church, no mosque, no nothing. Family's kind of dysfunctional. All of that piece.
And no money.
And no money.
Bro.
And he comes back to a community where it's about and you don't pray for nobody, you pray on folk. Then what happens?
He meets somebody like me.
Well, Rozzy, that's what I'm saying. You know, he needs some TLC or.
I'm gonna leave that to you.
No. I'm gonna leave that to you because the Black man needs compassion.
Not with all those issues though. See, he has a lot of issues. Everything that you just spoke on. Yeah, that's a lot. I'm not constituted that way that I need to give the TLC to that type of individual. Well, they have professional help. Well, they have people like yourself.
Well, if they come and I give them the life skills, then I turn them over to you for what?
No. At this point in my life, I don't need you to teach anybody about life skills. No, not at this point. You teach children about life skills.
No, you got to teach grown men today about life skills.
Oh, so that's the problem.
I look. I made a life, not just a living. I made a life out of transforming human life, where you would meet somebody, you wouldn't know whether they had a PhD from TSU or Rice or a PhD from Penn State, and I don't mean University of Pennsylvania. You wouldn't know.
But that's the interesting thing about you guys, about Muslims in the Nation of Islam. I've always been attracted to the intellect of the Black man in that aspect. Like, even like he was outside in that hot suit in the sun with that bean pie. That's what got me to eat meat pies, meat patties. I was like, But it was the intellect. I was mentally titillated by the things that they would say. And so, but it was just a different. I came over to the mosque one time. I was all dressed up, and the women were on one side, and me were on the other. I said, okay, I can't come in here because I need to be closer to men. You just can't separate me like that.
Rozzy,
I told you that.
You need to come back and visit.
No, it was hot. It was like the women were on one side, the men were on the other side. I was like,
But
yo, I need to be.
Well,
I
you
need to
could
be close
have,
to the
you could have,
man.
after the meeting, you could have came and said, brother, can I have one of those beans?
No,
Oh, yeah.
You got the man that
Oh,
was
Lord Jesus.
You say, brother, can I get one of them new?
But all of the men were
Well,
looking
maybe-
good
well,
to me. I just felt isolated. Like I said, oh, I can't come
Well,
in.
maybe if you start putting the men and women together,
No,
you know,
no.
that would
She would
encourage
get
the-
distracted. She was like,
I
I'm
was
saying,
distracted.
and God
walking in.
said, and
But what
God
I'm
said,
saying is
and Rozzy be like,
maybe that would encourage some of these youngsters, man. Some of these
they're
folks in
fine.
the streets,
They
man,
they
to
come-
change their ways.
there's a way that you have to do. You have to train men with men and women with women. There's a reason for that.
Gotcha.
There's a reason for that.
I wanted to
Okay.
say something though, transitionally about what another trend that I'm seeing here in Houston, but across the other night I was driving, and there was a white pickup truck that was like trying to come out, and I didn't let them come out because I was already in the street. They were trying to come out of the gas station or whatever they were at, and I guess they weren't happy about that, and so they actually drove up on side of me, got in front of me, and actually started driving in the middle of the 2-lane highway. And so I had just seen a video where the young girl, African American young girl, had been shot in the head. She was driving with her family, 4 years old, I think, 4, 6.
On 59.
Yes. And was facing she was in critical condition. And then you saw the other situation where the young black man was robbing the other black man at the ATM, and he thought that the guy had jumped into the truck, and he shot inside the truck and ended up killing the little Hispanic girl. But I'm constantly seeing these road rage incidents happening, and people not only shooting, and in my case, I actually pulled into like a subdivision because when we went to the light, he stopped at the light and he let this other car pass him as they passed me up, but kept so I'm like, man, of course I'm thinking to myself, I may have to be Rozzy today. You know what I'm saying? I may have to be Rozzy today. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I'm just like trying to avoid the situation altogether. And that could have really turned into something, serious. But we see incidents where this is actually happening. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've actually had several people, and this is a true story. I was on my way to the airport and I was late for a flight. So I was moving fast, and there was this huge black truck with big tires, and it was jacked up. And I was moving through, and they were moving through as well. And so when I jumped over to go across, I think I upset them because they came behind me and then they got in front of me, and he started like how to get in front of you. And I was like, is he trying to make me hit him, or what is he doing?
Mm-hmm.
But I literally was just trying to get to where I was trying to get to. And then I thought to myself, this little 9mm is not going to be enough. And I have to take him out. So I need to get me a larger gun. So I bought me a CZ Scorpion. Like I said, if you come out with this look, because I'm just telling you, you got to think about this. Because he had you got to think about it. And it had a Confederate flag in the back of his truck. In the back. So in my mind, I said, my firearm may not match his firearm. So I may need to get some more ammunition. And that. So here's the deal. And so seriously, I have those things to occur, and listen at this, by no means am I violent. I just believe in situational awareness, and I believe that you have to always pay attention to what you're doing, and you have to almost pre-guess what somebody is going to do. You have to be like, okay, what if this happens? Then I need to be prepared for this. And I think working in the institutional division, it prepared me for that, because the one thing that they would always say is, all we have is 24/7 to watch you and figure you out. Just be yourself. Just be yourself. And so when you hear that, and then they will always say, it's not when you're prepared, it's the surprise, surprise of element is how someone gets you. And so it's like, for me, when I'm getting out of my car, before I get out of my car, I move my mirrors down, that I look to make sure that nobody's running up on me. It's stuff like that you literally have to pay attention to what's happening. But back to what you were saying about road rage, I have literally been like on a freeway and people get on the side of me and cuss me out and say all kinds of stuff. And the only reason why I'm really calm is because I do have my firearm. And I know that if in the event that something really jumps out, that I'm going to get them before they get me because I'm going to protect myself. But I don't allow that to make me like angry or just become like, okay, I have a gun. Let me get you. No, 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 no. You have to be smart about what you're doing. You have to say, you know what? Let me calm down. Let me just watch what's happening. But people literally will jump in front of you. They will cuss you out. They'll try to do all and follow you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Literally follow you. And so when people begin to follow you, then the first thing I say you do is you call the police because you have to put yourself in a protective state that you do the things that you need to do. And then you start taking care of your business after that because you've already made somebody aware of what's happening and you protect yourself. I know you don't think like that. You probably don't even know the gun out there. Like how you looking. You don't even know the gun. I'm literally alarmed by men who don't have guns because you can't protect me. If somebody coming to get us, I'm the woman. I gotta protect everything. No, listen, we are this out of order. I need you as a man to be the protector all the way around.
Sister,
Minister,
there's
come on.
no safer place than to believe a man of God who's willing to give his life for your life.
I believe that, but then you did, and I'm still there trying to
But you're alive.
Yeah, but I don't want you to down my
behalf. But see, there again is a misunderstanding about us.
No. I'm very much well aware of who you are.
You know that if you mess with one of them sisters, you know that it's a death sentence.
Yes, but where's the gun? I'm just saying.
No, I can't make light of this. I understand your point.
Gotcha.
But what I'm making a point is that people know, youngsters or whomever,
everybody knows
that when it comes to our women, it's a death sentence. Because there are some things that are worthy to die over and kill for. So I understand your point. And though I had that little smirk on my face, it's only because Rozzy, you are who you are. That it has nothing to do with the point that you were making. It's only the personality and the principle of the person that I'm looking at. I've known you for years.
Right.
So so I'm trying not to let the audience know what he's been cracking up. No, I understand. That's just you.
Okay.
But on the serious, when I look at it again, I'm big picture, long term. We've been under actually the shadow of death. We're talking about this pestilence from heaven, this virus, and all we saw in the news, Jeff, not in the forward times, but in the news. How many people were sick? How many people were dying? Why you don't get a vaccination? Did you get a vaccination? Death, dying, death, dying. You have this whole mind. Now, we maybe need to send Vladimir Putin a thank you card for curing COVID because I hardly hear about it now.
Right.
What is replace the you're dying, you're in the hospital now. But when you look at the numbers, that's even running in the Chronicle, it's really like only 1.1% of the people who are either it's even lower, who died. People that got the COVID, who died or who were hospitalized. It's 1%. The other 99% survived. Now, but why were we so you got this? So whenever, Mr. Farrakhan said, wherever there's hopelessness, there's violence. So now we got a whole mindset where people say, well, life ain't worth it. I can't live in. Now we're under economic pressure. Either you get the jab or you lose your job. Or you can't come into work. Or I don't want to go back to that job. I don't want to be around people. Here we are finally, maybe after 2 years, sitting one with another, looking at each other, laughing like the old days without looking like Batman and a mask on and whatnot. And so we were under the shadow of death. So now death is in the minds of the people. So now we got a mental health problem. We got a collective mental health problem going on right now. So people are snapping. So what you're saying is real. I can't deny that, and I can't deny what you're saying because I've experienced it. But I say it's a sign of the times. I do understand what's going on. And it's not only in what we're doing, what we're witnessing. Witnessing a rise in homicide across the country. And don't let nobody tell you it's just these big city Democratic cities.
Mhm.
In some of the states that's run by Republicans, the city by Republicans, the murder rate is 200% higher than these other places, or it's increased 200%. All you got to do is run the stats.
Mhm.
So we're not falling for that old canard. What we have to understand is that we have lost this regard for human life. Hopelessness breeds violence. And what we've got to do is we got to restore this hope so that Rozzy don't have to shoot nobody, and you don't have to be ducking off in the subdivisions. But
Right.
people would just say, either we go back to flipping the bird at one another, or I salute you and say, you got it, homeboy. Because even years ago, Rozzy, I understand completely saying years ago, we had a brother in the mosque named Eric London. And he was driving down the road, and somehow, some way, he cut off this young Hispanic boy. And he did like this is our way to say peace. He said peace like this to the brother. The man pulled out a 45 Haskell and shot him and killed him. And I went to that trial, and Ted Poe sentenced him to 45 years in jail. And he said, you got to keep Eric London's picture up in your thing. So no matter
Up in his cell.
up in his cell, and no matter, whenever I'd run into Congressman Poe, I hated his politics,
Mhm.
but I always thanked him. It was a fair trial. The boy's evidence was heard, and all that. I sat through it. I listened to it. I would hold the mother's hand in the whole piece. But so this was before all of this crime wave. This happened out of road rage. So yes, road rage, homicide, murder, all this stuff is going on. It's mayhem because really, you really say you and I affected on the ground, but all of this stuff really started at the top. Look at the violence. We don't solve nothing. Look at the military budget. Look at where your budget tells what your morals or your ethics or where your mind is. So we look at that, and we look at the society. We look at education. We look at our healthcare system. We look at our sociological system that's falling apart. We have to now look at ourselves, set that unapologetically Black agenda, and in truth, what it's all going to come down to. I know you ain't gonna go for this, Rozzy, because you don't like the males being separate. We don't have to separate from these people, and we're gonna have to have a nation of our own. Eventually, it's gonna come to that. In our lifetime, on another lifetime, we will have to say, y'all are just totally disagreeable to live with in peace. We're gonna have to live together, but that's gonna come when we set that agenda. We clean up, make our own neighborhoods a decent place to live, and we learn to trust and love one another as we should, and govern our affairs as we should. Maybe not in our lifetime, but certainly in my children or my grandchildren's lifetime, it's going to happen.
Well, I do believe that we need to ensure that the Black church, the mosques, the synagogues, whatever spiritual house that you worship in, is engaged in our community, especially as they were in the days of old. A lot of our issues were resolved through the church, and through that spiritual foundation, but also these community organizations, particularly grassroots organizations that deal with this type of stuff on a day-to-day basis. They need the funding and resources and the engagement from city leaders and that have the resources and whatnot to engage them, because they're boots on the ground every day without the requisite resources that they need. But I want to also say, I thank Trader Truth for his commentary about the situation and for showing up at her doorstep. He's now helped her start a GoFundMe account to try to raise the money, not only to get back, but other needs. But she went out and got a gun the next day.
Amen.
She went out and got a gun the next day.
Amen.
And she didn't. I guess not saying amen, but I'm just saying that sadly, that was what she's now had to resort to. Prior to this, she wasn't, in fear of her life like that. Now, sadly, this young African American, young man, and it could have been any race, but in this case, one of our own, pushed her into this life of fear, and now having to protect herself. And ironically, I want to say it was either the day before or a week before. I think it was a day before. her brother installed the security camera that we now when we saw the video to try to make sure, everybody got Ring and different stuff like that. But he's the one that installed the security camera that caught that on video. Now, if that wasn't on video and hadn't gone viral, we stories like this happen every day.
Certainly.
She's just one that's on video. But some of our elders, I was talking to my barber, and he was talking about how his mom is afraid to go to the store, up the street. She used to go all the time, but folks loitering on the corner and, threatening and all kind of violence in the neighborhood, and, can't even go outside their house anymore. And so we got to do something, y'all, proactively, not just reactively, before it gets increasingly worse for her to deal with it. And I'm not just sitting up here talking about advocating getting firearms rods or minister, talking about the family structures solely and alone, because everybody's, situation is not that. But we have to figure out how we challenge each other collectively, man, to come back to collective unity and Black love. I don't know how that is to be done, fully, but I'm willing to get in the fight.
Well, I do.
Okay, well, let's hear it.
And I'll help Roz.
Oh, so I need help.
Well, you don't need it.
She need help.
I need help.
I need help, Roz. But
Oh,
she
wow.
got she has the look. She had the right spirit. I see some men's up in there. She reminded me of a sister in New Orleans when we had the men's only meeting, and this sister said, "Man, I need to come up in there." And
That's
we
the
were like,
best place for a woman to be.
But listen, Rozzy, we were kind of blocking her. We weren't. She said, "Don't touch me." We were kind of like, "But come on, sister, now let the brothers have this meeting." She said, "There's 10,000 men's up in there. I want." So I understand the spirit.
Nice suits.
But very, very seriously, the key is love. We don't love deep enough. And when we get that kind of love, man, love casts out fear. Perfect love casts out fear. So she won't have to carry a gun. I want to bring back the community and the world. I want to live in a world where you don't need a gun. And that is my vision. Until then, I understand. I don't agree, but I understand.
What were you about to say, Rob?
I agree with you. We all want to. I've just not seen that in my lifetime. I don't think I'll see that in my lifetime.
Well, I'm gonna work towards it.
No, I mean, and that's admirable. I think that's a great thing. But for the most immediate and in the moment, that's not occurring. And so you talk about love, and we talk about, but the Black family is broken, and that's a whole nother show. We talk about the structure of the Black family, it's broken. And so oftentimes you have Black kids being raised by single parents. And so then those type of relationships that mother is having with the outside male, it's very convoluted in the messaging that's taking place in the household. And then kids are raising themselves. So because the mom has to go to work, so it's a lot going on.
It's social engineering.
Oh, absolutely.
And again, we got to go to the root of that. And then, yes, there may be another show, and I look forward to doing it with some real talk and your gun on safety.
Well, we definitely gonna have some continued discussion. Ryan, if you could just pull up that monologue information, I want to share a little bit about who we're looking for. There's again an individual. Go down to the bottom for me, if you could, to the very bottom. Yeah, so I just want to make sure everybody knows who we're looking for. Go back up. Yeah. So this is a young African American male who anywhere from 5'6" to 5'8", hopped out of a black Hyundai Elantra vehicle, and he was wearing I want to say a burgundy hoodie. And those who wish to contact anyone who may have tips, call 713-222-TIPS, and that's 8477. You can also go online at www.crime-stoppers.org, or you can communicate through the Crime Stoppers of Houston mobile app. If you have any information, there's a $5,000 cash reward and payment that is being considered. I want everyone to let's continue to keep Mrs. Tanya Robinson Rogers, and our thoughts and our prayers, along with any other victims of senseless violence and unsuspecting attack. Thank you so much, y'all. That'll do it for today. Hey, listen, it's been real. It's been real talk, Dr. Student Minister Dr. Abdul, Haleem, Muhammad, and of course, with Rozzy Shorter. Make sure y'all share the link, share the page. You can always come back and watch this very entertaining conversation on today. And make sure you tune in on next week, y'all. Real Talk Junkies next Wednesday, 12 noon Central Standard Time, here on the Forward Times Facebook app as well as Instagram. I'll holler at y'all next week. Don't argue with me.